Welcome, dear listeners, to our Scary Stories, the podcast that dances with your deepest fears, lurks in your darkest nightmares, and turns the eerie silence of your room into a chilling spectacle. I'm your host, ready to guide you through the cobwebbed corners of the macabre, where reality blurs with the supernatural. Tonight, we embark on an unforgettable journey to a quaint little village known as Eldergrove, a place where beauty hides a terrifying secret, and the moon is more than just a celestial body in the night sky. So, dim your lights, wrap yourself in the safety of your blanket, and let your imagination roam free. This, dear listeners, is the harvest of the pale moon. Nestled in the arms of emerald valleys, veiled by a tapestry of intertwining trees and veined rivers, the village of Eldergrove lay in timeless tranquility. The sun painted the sky with golden hues, casting a radiant glow on the bountiful green fields and the rustic, thatched roofs of the houses. An earthly scent wafted through the air, a mix of dew-kissed grass and ripe harvest, punctuated by the subtle fragrance of blooming wildflowers. An outsider, a young man by the name of Corbin, with strikingly blue eyes and a hardened expression from years of travel, stepped into this idyllic world, welcomed by the villagers with warm smiles that masked an undercurrent of anxiety. He could not help but notice the peculiarities. Despite their differing appearances, not one villager bore wrinkles or a stooped back. All seemed frozen in their prime. That evening, as Corbin watched from the wooden porch of his temporary dwelling, the fading sunlight slowly gave way to an ascending moon. But it wasn't the usual silvery satellite that hung in the starry blanket of the night. It was a blue moon. It had an icy radiance, casting an eerie glow over Eldergrove. Corbin noted the palpable shift in the atmosphere, the previous chirping of crickets silenced, replaced by an unsettling quietude. The villagers, too, seemed transformed. Their eyes, previously filled with genial warmth, now carried a mix of fear and resignation. The somber toll of a distant bell drew Corbin's gaze towards the heart of the village. A stone-built chapel stood there, its silhouette formidable against the lunar glow, the bell tower ringing a hauntingly mournful melody. The villagers, holding lanterns that flickered like ghostly fireflies, began a solemn procession towards it. The sight was hypnotic, their faces reflecting the eerie glow of the blue moon, their steps rhythmic against the stony path, a melancholy dance to the tune of the tolling bell. And so, Eldergrove, a seemingly idyllic paradise, revealed its first veiled secret under the spectral gaze of the blue moon. Corbin, the outsider, watched, a frown etching lines on his forehead, as the villagers disappeared into the chapel. The uneasy realization settled in him. This wasn't just a refuge, a haven he had stumbled upon. This was a place where an ancient dread lurked, a place bound by a curse as old as the relentless cycle of life and death. In the heart of the chapel, as the villagers gathered, Corbin found himself drawn in by the hypnotic rhythm of their soft whispers, like leaves rustling in the evening breeze. Each word spoken, a cryptic verse, a piece of an ancient puzzle. Among the villagers was Marin, the village elder, a lady of profound grace and wisdom. Her gray hair cascaded down like a silvery waterfall. Her eyes, green as the verdant valleys, held the quiet serenity of a timeless river. Corbin noticed the villagers treat her with a distinct reverence, an unspoken respect echoing in their lowered gazes and softened voices. With a warm smile, Marin invited Corbin closer to the stone hearth in the center of the chapel, the flames dancing like wild spirits, casting animated shadows on the cobblestone walls. He found himself encircled by the villagers, their expectant eyes gleaming in the firelight. Marin began to weave an ancient tale. A tale of the village's inception, a land blessed with fertility by a lunar deity they lovingly referred to as the Pale Moon. Her voice, calm yet powerful, painted vivid pictures of the deity, a creature of ethereal beauty and raw strength, bathed in a glow that turned night into day. But as the story unfolded, the warm glow of the hearth seemed to grow colder. The villagers' steady breaths became ragged, their faces reflecting the cruel twist the tale was taking. With every blue moon, the deity demanded a price for its blessings, a sacrifice of a villager, a life for life's bounty. The weight of the tale hung heavy in the air, lingering like the pungent smell of burnt wood from the hearth. Corbin felt his heart tighten, his stomach churn, a shroud of unease enwrapping him. The dread reflected in the villager's eyes was now his own, the village's curse etching itself into his consciousness. As Marin's tale echoed to a close, the villagers dispersed, a silence left in their wake, a silence that was a silent scream, a plea to the pale moon, a stark reminder of their inescapable destiny. Under the cold glow of the blue moon, the village secret lay bare, and Corbin, the outsider, was now a part of this horrifying legacy. As dawn broke, casting its rosy hue over Eldergrove, a sharp contrast to the moonlit spectacle of the previous night, the villagers began their grim preparations. The contrast was jarring, the tranquility of the morning disrupted by an underlying restlessness, akin to a peaceful lake disrupted by hidden undercurrents. Fields of bountiful crops were tended to, not with the usual joy of a rich harvest, but with a sense of trepidation. The grain, touched by the morning light, glistened like golden hair, but to the villagers, each stalk was a silent reminder of their impending fate. Meanwhile, Corbin found himself in the thick of it all, drawn into the ritualistic whirlwind. He was handed an ornate robe, dyed a deep shade of midnight blue and embroidered with silver threads that traced the phases of the moon. It was heavier than it looked, not just in its physical weight, but in the immense responsibility it carried. It was the attire of the chosen one, the villager who would stand before the pale moon. The preparation of the ceremonial ground was a spectacle in itself. Situated at the heart of the largest field, a circle was carved into the earth. Its periphery was decorated with wildflowers, and within, sacred symbols were etched with meticulous care. Corbin, watching from a distance, felt a shiver run down his spine, the eerie sight of the ritual ground amplifying the dread that had settled within him. As dusk fell, a communal feast was held in the village square. There was an abundance of food, fruits from the bountiful orchards, pies baked with the sweetest berries, and freshly brewed meat. Laughter and music filled the air, but it was a haunting melody, an attempted merriment despite the looming shadow of the blue moon. The feast was an eerie celebration of life, held in the face of imminent death. As the villagers retreated to their homes, leaving the square empty save for the dying embers of the bonfire, Corbin stood alone. The robe weighed heavy in his hands, the silence of the night broken only by the distant hooting of an owl. It was not the refuge he sought. Instead, he had stepped into a chilling dance with destiny. The harvest was no mere tradition. It was a desperate plea for survival, a chilling reminder of a pact made with a creature that belonged to a realm beyond his comprehension. In the realm of midnight, under the glow of the second blue moon, the villagers gathered once more. Each face was a mirror reflecting the same fear, their hearts pounding a similar rhythm of dread. The square, usually alive with joyful chatter, echoed with a chilling silence, punctuated by the eerie whispers of the wind. Clad in the midnight blue robe, Corbin was led towards the ceremonial ground. His steps felt heavy, his heart heavier. The silver embroidery on the robe shimmered in the moonlight, a mesmerizing sight if only it didn't signify a terrifying ritual. The villagers watched in solemn silence, their eyes expressing a mixture of gratitude and sympathy. In the center of the marked circle, facing the vast expanse of the bountiful field bathed in lunar glow, Corbin felt a chilling breeze pass through him. He watched as Marin, the elder, lifted a silver chalice to the sky. Her voice, steady yet filled with an underlying tremor, began to chant an ancient hymn, her words flowing like a moonlit river, filling the air with an eerie harmony. As her voice reached a crescendo, the blue moon seemed to pulse, its glow intensifying. The silver chalice in Marin's hand started to vibrate, its rim humming in response to the lunar call. The sight was both enchanting and horrifying. Time seemed to suspend, the villagers holding their breaths, their hearts pounding in unison with the rhythm of the chanting. And then it appeared, a deity, the pale moon. It emerged from the shadows, a creature of pure energy, its form pulsating with an ethereal glow. Its presence, so overpoweringly divine and monstrous, turned the field into an otherworldly stage, the borders between reality and the supernatural blurring. The creature drew closer, its luminescence casting an eerie glow on Corbin's terrified face. He stood rooted, his body rigid with fear, his gaze locked on the deity. Around him, the villagers bowed their heads, their bodies trembling. The air grew colder, the energy more intense. Every breath became a struggle, and the reality of their existence inescapable. The night was not theirs anymore. It belonged to the pale moon. A harvest had begun. As dawn tiptoed into Eldergrove, a wave of eerie silence washed over the village. The once vibrant fields seemed duller, their emerald hue diminished under the weight of the past night's ritual. Houses stood quiet, as if they too were mourning the recent loss, their once cheerful facades now a canvas of sorrow. Corbin found himself sitting in the now abandoned square, his body drenched in the morning dew. The robe of midnight blue was now a heap of fabric beside him, its silver embroidery dull under the early sunlight. He stared into the horizon, the rising sun painting a stark contrast against the vivid memory of the moonlit spectacle. With the villagers retreating to the confines of their homes, the square echoed with the remnant whispers of the feast, the ceremonial chants, the terrifying appearance of the pale moon. The bonfire was now a pile of ashes, a chilling reminder of the transience of their merriment, the ephemeral illusion of safety that had been shattered by the night's events. As the sun climbed higher, Eldergrove slowly returned to its idyllic facade. The fields waved gently under the warm breeze, the distant laughter of children could be heard, the slow rhythm of daily life resuming. It was as if the night's horror was a feverish dream, a nightmarish illusion replaced by the harsh reality of daylight. Despite the return of normalcy, Corbin could not escape the chilling echo of Marin's words, the sight of the pale moon, the fear-stricken faces of the villagers. Each laughter rang hollow, each smile seemed strained. The village's curse was now a constant, daunting presence in his life. As he got to his feet, leaving the crumpled robe behind, Corbin found himself more resolute than before. He had become a part of the village's horrifying legacy. He had borne witness to the terror of the harvest. Now he yearned to break free from it, to challenge the ancient pact, to protect Eldergrove from the cruel cycle of sacrifices. In the morning light, amidst the idyllic beauty of Eldergrove, a daunting task lay ahead. Little did he know, his journey was just beginning. The village passed unveiling only the surface of its ancient secrets. The following days saw Corbin, once an outsider, now an integral part of Eldergrove's fate, submerged in his quest for answers. He sought the guidance of Marin, who, despite her initial hesitation, saw the spark of determination in his eyes, a spark that echoed her own buried hopes. She led him to a hidden chamber beneath the chapel, a place untouched by time, shrouded in an ancient silence. In the flickering glow of a single lantern, rows of weathered books, scrolls, and artifacts rested, relics of Eldergrove's rich yet haunting history. Guided by Marin's wisdom and his own insatiable curiosity, Corbin delved into the musty scrolls, their parchment crackling under his careful touch. Hours turned into days as he sought a forgotten lore, a secret that could potentially save Eldergrove from its monstrous deity. The lantern's glow danced upon the ancient script, revealing tales of celestial beings, otherworldly rituals, and unspoken pacts. Amid these narratives, he discovered a ritual that could banish the pale moon, a means to break the cycle of harvests. However, the ritual wasn't a mere sequence of words and offerings. It was a complex symphony of celestial alignment, ancient incantations, and a vessel of pure intention to draw the deity into the physical realm, where it could be challenged. The task was daunting, almost impossible, but Corbin felt an unwavering resolve surge within him. Armed with this newfound knowledge, Corbin emerged from the chamber. In the dim light filtering through the chapel's stained glass, he shared his discovery with Marin. The elderly woman, her face reflecting a mix of fear and hope, nodded in silent agreement. They both knew the price of defiance, the dangers they would face, and yet they understood the necessity of their actions. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows over the village, a newfound resolution took root within Corbin. Armed with the forbidden knowledge, he was no longer a mere participant in the village's cruel fate. He had become their beacon of hope, ready to challenge an ancient deity and alter the course of Eldergrove's destiny. Under the cloak of a moonless night, Corbin began the clandestine task of garnering support. He needed allies within the villagers, individuals brave enough to stand against the ingrained dread and willing to risk everything to defy the pale moon. One by one, he sought out the villagers. There was Thorin, the burly blacksmith whose arms were as powerful as his spirit, and Nia, a young maiden whose resilience defied her tender years. A few more brave souls joined their cause, their eyes reflecting a shared determination, their hearts beating with a unified purpose. Each night, under the hushed whispers of the wind and the veiled secrecy of their homes, they gathered. Corbin, sharing the forbidden knowledge from the ancient texts, led them through the meticulous process of understanding the ritual. Every word, every symbol etched into their minds was a step towards the possible salvation of Eldergrove. The preparations were as much a physical challenge as a mental one. The risk of discovery was a constant threat, the fear of retaliation from the deity, an unspoken terror. But with each passing day, their resolve only strengthened. They had seen too many harvests, lost too many friends, and now they were ready to reclaim their freedom. The ritual required specific elements, each resonating with the celestial energy of the pale moon. Corbin and his allies began to gather them, careful not to rouse suspicion. From the rare bloom of the nightshade lily, which only blossomed under the blue moon, to a stone from the ancient chapel's foundation, each item held significance, a key to unlock the deity's banishment. But the final requirement proved to be the most challenging. A vessel with a will strong enough to draw the deity into the physical realm, a person willing to risk everything. The group's eyes fell on Corbin. He had been their leader, their guiding star in this rebellion. Despite the fear clutching at his heart, Corbin agreed. He was ready to face the pale moon, not as a sacrifice, but as a challenger. As the days grew shorter and the blue moon's arrival neared, a new pact was formed, not with an ancient deity, but among the brave souls of Eldergrove. A pact of courage and defiance, a pact of their own. Little did they know that their secretive rebellion was about to change the destiny of their village, forever. With each passing day, the blue moon's arrival grew imminent, its spectral presence a mere shadow during the day but growing increasingly vibrant as the sun set. The villagers went about their daily chores, their expressions betraying the dread that was slowly creeping into their hearts. In the midst of this tension, Corbin and his allies carried on with their preparations. Each gathered item was a small victory, each successful meeting, a breath of relief. The ancient text had become their guide, its cryptic words now symbols of hope. As the last beams of the sun surrendered to the encroaching night, Corbin found himself at the ritual site, once just an ordinary field, now the stage for their rebellion. He traced the etched symbols, their outlines sharp against the cold, hard ground. A shiver ran down his spine, not just from the chilly night air, but the weight of responsibility these symbols represented. Meanwhile, in the heart of the village, Marin watched the younger villagers playing under the fading light. Their laughter was a stark contrast to the silence of the elders, their joy untainted by the looming harvest. She felt a twinge of sadness at their innocence, a melancholic yearning for a future where the laughter could persist, untouched by the pale moon's terror. Unknown to the rest of Eldergrove, within the safety of Thorin's forge, the group gathered. In the dim light, Corbin shared the final details of their plan. With each word, their expressions shifted from apprehensive anticipation to steely determination. Their secret rebellion was no longer a mere idea. It had taken shape, formed roots. It was real, and it was happening. The countdown had begun, the blue moon was on the horizon, and with it, the night of their rebellion. As the meeting adjourned, and each member of their group disappeared into the night, Corbin was left with the embers of the forge, their glow a grim reminder of the path they had chosen. As he stepped out into the night, the distant howl of a wolf echoing through the valley, Corbin looked up at the crescent moon. Soon it would be full, and their plan would be set into motion. Underneath the star-studded canopy of the night, a single thought echoed through his mind. Eldergrove would not witness another harvest. Not if he could help it. As the azure cloak of the night spread across the heavens, the village of Eldergrove, bathed in the ghostly light of the full blue moon, held its breath. The villagers, swathed in their ceremonial robes, started their solemn procession towards the sacred ground. Yet, amidst this familiar ritual, a palpable tension coiled, unseen but keenly felt. Corbin, donned in the attire of the Chosen One, found himself at the heart of the ceremony. The midnight blue robe, once a symbol of his fate, was now a symbol of defiance. His heart pounded in his chest, a steady rhythm that echoed his resolve. Marin stood beside him, her usually calm demeanor replaced by a thin veil of anxiety. In the distance, Thorin, Nia, and the rest of their allies watched, their faces etched with concern, their hands clenched in silent support. The village elder began her chant, her voice soaring above the crowd, a melody intertwining with the whispers of the wind. As her voice resonated with the sacred hymn, Corbin took his place within the etched circle, his every breath synchronized with the pulse of the earth beneath him, his spirit preparing to summon the deity. In the vast expanse of the starlit field, a spectral light started to coalesce. The ethereal form of the pale moon began to materialize, its celestial energy radiating in waves that washed over the villagers. Fear clung to the cool night air, a chilling shroud around the crowd, their bodies stiffening at the sight of the deity. Corbin stood his ground, the ancient incantation ready on his lips. The ritual, a complex symphony of celestial alignment and sacred chants, began. His voice, steady yet filled with raw emotion, called out to the deity, a vessel inviting it into the physical realm. Around him, the villagers gasped as they watched their routine harvest transform into a showdown. Corbin, the outsider who had become one of them, stood against their deity, not as a sacrifice, but as a challenger. As the pale moon was drawn towards him, the air vibrating with the sheer intensity of their confrontation, the final chapter of their rebellion was set into motion. It was a night that would forever be etched in the history of Eldergrove, the night of the final harvest. Under the mesmerizing dance of the blue moon, Corbin and the deity stood locked in an ethereal confrontation. His voice echoed in the hushed silence, weaving the incantation that held the deity captive. The villagers watched in silent awe, their fear temporarily replaced by a spark of rebellious hope. With a final, powerful chant, Corbin completed the ritual. A blinding flash of celestial light erupted from the spot where he stood, a shockwave of raw energy rippling through the field. The villagers shielded their eyes, their hearts pounding with trepidation. When they dared to look again, an astonishing sight met their eyes. The deity, once an ethereal entity of the lunar realm, was now bound to the physical world. Its form shimmered with an otherworldly luminescence, its expression reflecting surprise and fury. Corbin, his strength waning from the enormity of the ritual, stood his ground. He faced the deity, his gaze holding a defiant challenge. He had fulfilled his role as a vessel, bringing the deity into a realm where it could be defeated. The pale moon roared, a haunting sound that echoed through the valleys, its wrath shaking the very ground beneath them. Yet, even in the face of such primal terror, Corbin did not falter. With a final cry, he invoked the banishment spell, the words forming a tangible force that slammed into the deity. The pale moon fought against the banishment, its struggle manifesting as fierce winds that whipped through the field, tossing debris and shaking the surrounding trees. But it was a losing battle. Gradually, its form started to wane, its radiance dimming until, with a final screech of fury, it vanished. A stunned silence spread across the field, broken only by the rustling leaves and the distant hoot of an owl. The deity was gone. The villagers looked at each other, disbelief painted across their faces. The age-old cycle of the harvest had been broken. Exhausted but triumphant, Corbin collapsed, his allies rushing to his side. As Marin cradled his head in her lap, tears streamed down her face, not of sorrow, but of relief and gratitude. Eldergrove was free at last. In the days to come, the villagers would celebrate their liberation, their joyous laughter echoing through the valley. They would remember this night, the night when they reclaimed their lives from a cruel deity. They would tell tales of Corbin, the brave outsider who had become their savior. Eldergrove was no longer under the shadow of the harvest. It was a village reborn, basking in the glow of their newfound freedom under the pale moon. Thus, we come to the end of tonight's tale, a chilling narrative that twisted the serene into the sinister, the sacred into the horrifying. The harvest of the pale moon is a reminder that terror lurks in the most unsuspecting corners, that reality is often stranger than fiction. Remember, dear listeners, as you lay in your bed tonight, staring up at the moon, the story of Eldergrove. Our journey ends here, but fear not, for when the sun sets again, we'll meet once more, ready to delve into another spine-chilling tale from our scary stories. Sleep well, dear listeners. Until next time, this is our Scary Stories signing off for tonight.